Welcome to the Ace Show. I'm so excited that you're here. There's a great quote by Zig Ziglar, and I say this a lot, but he says, "You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want." That's what this whole show is about, really. It's helping professionals succeed and thrive both personally and professionally. And this is where we get to showcase experts, aces. I like to say aces in their field, and leverage that knowledge to support this whole community of people. And I get the privilege of introducing our next guest, and that's Jill Wicklund. Hi, Jill. Hey,
Oh,
I'm so glad you're here. Jill is the founder of Jill Wicklund LLC, and she focuses most of her, and you can always correct me if I'm not saying this quite right, but with the focus on working parents. Right? Jill helps professionals define success on their terms, moving through what self-doubt, building confidence, navigating kind of those big decisions with clarity, and rebuilding a meaningful career, really to enjoy their family as well as have a really good career, which is awesome. Many of us have that, and previously spent 13 plus years, I think, in the tech world
mhm.
at companies like Tableau and Salesforce. I had the privilege of working with you at a time at Tableau, focused on leadership development, enterprise sales. So you've got a whole host of the audience here is gonna love what your insight is. Facilitator of the program for early parent support. I think this is
Mhm.
great. PEPs. For
Yeah.
those of you who know what PEPs is, where you led an 8 week cohort that you support, and you still do that. You've been doing that for the last 5 years. That supports working moms as they transition, uh, meaningfully back into work, right? And so I think that's amazing. And for the past 16 years, Jill's been a big sister for the Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, where this is where you impact young lives. I sold books door to door for years, and I have a children's book, and I love the idea of impacting young people. And so what a great service that you provide. And before we jump in, fun fact. For our traveling nuts in the group, Jill started traveling at the age of 15, and you spent time and you lived in Spain, you lived in Ecuador. Those are both places that I haven't been in my time, and I look forward to going there. But you are in for a treat. This is definitely going to be a great conversation. So be prepared to hear a fresh perspective. Come in with an open mind and maybe a willingness to take action, because I know that Jill will show some insights and some thoughts and ways of thinking and some mindsets that could really be useful for you. And think about how the ideas and strategies that might be shared can be applied to you and your business and your personal life, your family life, as you look for ways to improve that. And so, Jill, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's been
Yeah,
great.
I'm so glad that you're here. Okay, well, let's jump in. Let's just jump in. How did you come to be where you are today, right? That's a big question, so
Yeah.
we'll take it wherever it goes. But how did you get to where you are today? Like, what's the arc?
Well, let me clarify where I am today, and then maybe we can work backwards from there. So,
Yeah.
what you mentioned earlier around my focus right now on working parents, the way I would describe that is it's more of a flavor of the work that I do. And so, foundationally, I was a sales leader. I was a sales individual. I was then responsible for leadership development at Tableau, and then part of Salesforce. And so my foundational training is as a career coach, executive coach, leadership coach, and as a leader myself. And so what I noticed in working in the field for the last 12 years, specifically around leadership and coaching, and is that the parents that I was working with, I was noticed at an early age, wow, there's a lot of tension here for people trying to be wonderful, effective professionals and then also be wonderful, effective parents. And then when I became a parent myself, oh, okay. I see why I see why there's so much friction here. So that is one of the reasons within my business. I do other things again related to executive coaching and facilitation and training, but specifically what we're talking about today is around working parents and the support I offer that group of individuals.
Yeah. You was it just you noticed the dissatisfaction or an issue? Like, what made you switch careers? What made you decide to go, all right, I'm going to go full force into this, and I'm going to step out of the career, this career with the tech space and the leadership, and
Yeah.
move into more of your own company and your consulting? Was there a real, like, a defining moment that made you want to shift
It's
that you can
interesting.
think of?
Yeah, so I think again, if we're just on the supporting working parent side, um, I think as many ideas get started from your own lived experience when there's tension and difficulty. And so when I first became a parent, I was a leader of a sales organization within Tableau, and I ended up actually deciding to step down from a global role to to be the kind of leader I wanted to be at home. And I felt like I couldn't be the kind of leader I wanted to be at work and be the kind of leader I wanted to be at home. And so that tension was really present for me. And then I got into coaching and I was consistently seeing this tension for other people. And so there was a series of moments that made me say, okay, there's something more here. There's something bigger here. It's not just me, because a lot of folks think it's really personal when you're having this tension and you don't know how to manage it. And there's just a big opportunity to support individuals and doing it better, especially once I got into the research and started looking at the numbers and how working parenthood has changed and how our family dynamics have changed. It's remarkable what the data, and there's a good amount of data at this point, which is helpful.
Well, yeah, I can't wait. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to you sharing some of that.
Yeah, happy to. Happy to.
I know that I had the privilege of working with you for a time at Tableau, and for a brief period, you were my manager, which was just. And I always admired your leadership style. You're just so good at this. How's your experience as a leader at Tableau at Salesforce? How has that carried over to this new career adventure for you?
I'm consistently grateful for my experience at Tableau and leading teams, and then now being a leadership coach, a career coach. And because when you are a leader of a hyper growth within a hyper growth company, within a hyper growth market, you are forced to learn so much within a short amount of time. So you're kind of pushed into growth, whether you like it or not, because you are hiring consistently. The product is changing. You are especially in sales roles, you're responsible for a lot of revenue and building an organization and creating systems for the organization. And so as I'm now consulting with organizations within the tech space and working with leaders and working with folks on their careers within the tech space, I pull a lot from my early days at Tableau, as well as going into Salesforce and working for a company that's global and just massive,
Massive.
70,000 plus employees and the kind of systems and infrastructure that's there. But what I know for me as an individual, I find myself to be creative and kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit. I pull a lot from my early experiences at Tableau.
You provide career and executive coaching. You've mentioned that, right? And so, can you tell me or tell us a little bit more about what that looks like? Who's is the typical people who come? I would imagine it's parents, but I don't imagine it's solely that, because you can coach more than parents.
Yeah, for sure. It depends. So again, foundationally, I'm trained as a career and leadership / executive coach. So I'm an ICF certified coach. I've been doing coaching now in a purest sense for the last 6 years. And then of course, as a leader, you're always coaching. Well, hopefully you're always coaching, but at least in my experience, I felt like I was always coaching. So who ends up coming to me to get support is anyone that needs career support. So yes, I market myself and a lot of times towards working parents. I have a lot of expertise in that. I've done a lot of research in that. But again, that's the flavoring on top of the foundational work that I do as a career coach. And so folks that come to me on the career coaching side, they're feeling stuck for whatever reason. Then their career isn't progressing the way that they want. Or for some folks that I've worked with, they just graduated from their MBA program and they're looking at like, how do I move forward and now have all this great education, but I don't exactly know what to do with it. And so I have one program that's called Career Clarity. So folks come in and by the time they leave the program, they're really clear on exactly how to move forward. It's interesting though in this work, because how you market it and then it's versus the experience that they have has been really fascinating to me as a practitioner, because I market it as career clarity, which is one of the things that they leave with. But it's so much bigger than that, because for a person to get to the kind of clarity that they need to make a career choice, they have to go through a real journey of self-understanding and all the variables that factor into them making the type of career choice that is supportive and in alignment with their whole picture.
Wow. Yeah. What are the biggest challenges then that you see? Right? Is it kind of the couple that you mentioned there, that parents who are looking to come back into the workforce?
The biggest challenges I see are people have made career choices oftentimes based on accumulation of wealth and money as opposed to alignment and sufficiency. So that's one of the biggest things we work on. So, whether they're coming to me for career coaching or they're coming to me for regular coaching, a lot of the time that we spend together is looking at the bigger picture. So when you zoom out and you think about your life and what do you want for your life, and you take in consideration, like, what kind of relationships do you want? What kind of home do you want? What kind of things do you want to do in your leisure time? How about your health, your physical health, mental health, emotional health? When we look at that picture, the bigger picture, and then we start to say, okay, well, what are the different variables that are going to support that? And career is one of them. There's a lot of other things that go into you enjoying your life. And so then I help them choose a career that is in alignment with who they are and their values, their skills, their strength, their experience, the kind of schedule they want, the kind of company they want, or if they want to go it on their own, and that is in supportive and alignment with their bigger picture.
It's funny, like a lot of people will come in. I used to consult and coach a lot with these sales execs or sales leaders or owners of companies, and they would come in with the goals like, I want to improve my team's sales numbers. And then 6 months into our coaching, we're literally talking about how do they manage their time, or how do they have a better attitude, or how do they coach their kids. I mean, it ends up just there's so much more than just this.
It's always,
and you can't just work at this. It has to work. Is that what you're seeing?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the big piece of my approach and my brain at this point is something called systems thinking. When someone presents you with an issue, like, we're not hitting our sales numbers. That is the tip of the iceberg. That's just on that's just what you can see, right? You can see, oh, my sales team is only 30% of my sales teams are hitting quota. Industry standard is more so between 50 and 60%. And then we start to look at all the reasons kind of underneath that you can't necessarily see, all the interdependencies that are contributing to whatever outcome or result that you're experiencing that is not favorable, that is bringing you into the coaching. And so in general, when anyone presents me with any issue, whether it's a career or in leadership or really in my personal life, anything, I just look back at the whole picture and what are the other things that are factoring in to contribute to this pain or this symptom of suffering.
I imagine you've got clients that stick with you for a while because of this approach.
Yeah.
It's like the doctor who goes, oh, here's a symptom, here's a pill. Oh, no, but let's go to the underlying root of what's going on before we diagnose or we give any sort of medical advice. Let's really find out what's going on underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, right? And so if I'm all about advice, I'm all about how can we help whoever's on this call coming in here, wherever they're coming in. Obviously, you've got some great experience. If you had one or two, and we might even dive into this more, but one or two pieces of advice for those that are really trying to manage, as I believe you've said this, the ongoing complexities of family and work.
Mm-hmm.
What would one or two things that you could give them that comes to mind? It doesn't have to be the thing, but one thing that comes to mind.
Oh gosh, there's so many things there. So speaking of kind of systems thinking and this idea of what you can see and then what's underneath, the biggest thing I want to tell all working parents is that what you're experiencing is normal, whatever it is, because what I find so often working with parents is that you feel like you're not doing it right. You're supposed to be, there's something I'm missing. There's something I should be doing better. There's a lot of shoulds around, like, I should be doing this, or I should have it dialed in this way, or look what that person's doing. They're becoming a senior director of whatever, and look how they're just able to handle their career. And then you have this.
They seem to have it all together.
Yeah, and I just want to dispel all of that. Like, yes, there's some moments in time where all of us are just thriving and doing our best and performing at our best, and like we're all winging it. We're all like doing our very best. And so what I want to tell all working parents is actually talk to people and say, how is it going? How are you managing this? What's working, what's not? And just begin to normalize how challenging it can be to be effective in both roles.
Yeah, this makes me think of what I think you're big on. We maybe talk a little bit more when we talk about the parent roundtable, but the community.
Yes.
But you're saying reach out to people.
Yes.
and reach out for support. You're not alone, and it's normal, and it's okay to have, and it's actually healthy to reach out and have a community of people. That sounds like that's part of what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
no, it's huge. I mean, if you think about PEPs as an organization, a wonderful nonprofit organization, and their business model is built around the importance of connection. That is the yes, there's some skill development, absolutely, especially in the working moms stuff I did. Just wrapped up a cohort with them, but really it's about normalizing the experience of being a working parent and connecting. Because another thing that can happen with working parents, especially mothers, is sometimes there's a lot of guilt and it can impact confidence. I'm not effective as a parent and I don't feel effective as a worker too. And so your overall belief in yourself and your overall confidence goes down because you don't feel like you're doing either one well. And then the ripple effects of that onto how you're interacting with your children and how you're interacting with yourself and how you're interacting with your colleagues. If we can kind of going back to like that root cause or that root issue, if we can really look and unpack what success looks like for you and having you define it for yourself, then it ripples out in such a more beautiful, healthy way.
Yeah, would that be the mind shift that you say? Is like there's a mind shift that someone who, you know, that's helped your clients, feel more confident about their career and their family? Would that be part of it, or is there another mindset kind of shift that you think that could be useful?
The biggest one is defining success for yourself. So
Define
in
success for
in this world
yourself.
of LinkedIn and
How do
Instagram,
you help people do that?
oh man, that goes back to what I said earlier around the program around what do you care about? What's valuable to you? What makes you feel like when you're doing things, where are you in flow? What makes you feel good? When you think about your best roles, your best achievements, what were those and why were they so and what's the theme between all of them that made them so impactful and effective for you? And then we build from those like really resonant places where you found a lot of joy and value in whatever you were doing, and then we build from that to define success for you.
It's good. I like that. I like the idea of like literally having them visualize what. I mean, I remember like visualize what a perfect day is for you.
Yeah.
This is one of the exercises I did. What does a perfect day look like for you? And you kind of visualize that. What is a perfect role that you had? Like think of a perfect role that you had. What was so good about that day, or what was so good? I mean, it's just have them visualize what they want. And it's so much more deep. Then they can maybe diagnose, well, what was happening on that day? What was going on, and what was I
Yeah.
doing? And I don't know. And maybe that's part of
No,
what you
you're
do.
you're spot on because so our brains are wired to problem solve and see issues and what's not working, which is an evolutionary trait that has helped us survive and helps the fact that you and I are still standing, or I'm standing, I think you're sitting, that we're talking today, right? Is that we like to problem solve. But what's the problem with that is if you're always looking for problems and looking what's not working, then your brain can't focus on what is working. What do I want? And so it's actually a way to bypass some of your evolutionary wiring is to ask yourself, and I do this with my kids all the time. They're always telling me what they don't want. I don't want him to be doing, I have two sons, so I don't want him to be doing that. Well, baby, tell him what you do want. What is the thing that you do want him to do? I want him to play with me. I want him to whatever it may be, or like with children when they're running, you don't say stop running. You say what they want you to do, what you want them to do. Hey, can you use your walking feet? It's a completely different mindset when you're focused on what you want versus what you don't want.
That's great. I just had this exact scenario with my youngest yesterday, where my oldest was watching a video and it was too loud while he was watching a video on soccer and learning. And my youngest, he didn't want him to do that. And he had to do his reading. He was doing his reading, right? And instead of saying, could you turn that down? He got mad and said, I don't want him to do that. Why are you doing that? And got up and went to the other room. And he's like, I don't want to be in my room. I says, well, you have an opportunity to ask for him what you want. And he decided not to. That was his choice. That's so funny you say that because that happens all the time. You focus on what you lack, you get more of what you lack. You focus on what you want and what you would like in your life and the things that you would like to have. More of that will come to you. You will start noticing more things. And this is,
Yes.
when you're
Yeah.
coaching parents, I mean, this is it's just such a good reminder. Thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why
Yeah.
when folks ask, for advice, so much of what I say to them, well, tell me about a time when it's worked for you. Tell me about a time where, and it's a lot about what's worked for you because we are all so unique. I mean, even twins, right? Even biologically, there's differences in them, and our lived experiences are different. So when people come to me for advice, I'm happy to give some like, this is what's worked for other clients, but mostly as a coach, I say, tell me about when it's really worked for you. What was happening? Who was there? What was your day
That's
like?
great. Yeah. And then we have them think and they'll, ooh, okay, I want to create that more often. Love it. I know that a lot of parents, I'm in this category for sure. They have to, we all, as parents, have to switch between work mode and then parent mode. And I'm guilty. I'm not all that successful at it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when there's so much on my plate to do, it's very difficult to separate those things sometimes. But how can parents do that? How can they create more harmony between the two?
Yeah. Again, this is one of those big like system questions. And I know it doesn't seem like it on the surface, but it is. When you look at, first of all, what is their work? What are they doing for work? What are they plugging into every day? And is that working for them? Is it in alignment with them energetically, financially, schedule wise, right? Is it in alignment? And so that's one piece of the puzzle is your work and specifically within that. So assuming that yes, it's energetically in line, financially in line, the schedule's in line, there's a big piece of that I always recommend to individuals, which is make sure you have really good role and goal clarity. Because being able to switch from work mode into parent mode and being able to turn your brain off at the end of the day or whenever on the weekend ties a lot back to, are you feeling successful at work? And the only way you really know that is if it's well defined. So if success is well defined at work, then you know what to be prioritizing, you know what you can say no to because it doesn't fall in line with your goals and your responsibilities. There's just this beautiful boundary setting that happens just naturally when you're really clear. So that's one thing. On the the actual like the tactical how to switch, like at the end of the day, how to make that switch. I would again encourage a couple of things. When it's not working, what do you notice? Like what are the things that when it's like, gosh, I stepped into that picking up from elementary school and my brain was nowhere near here. What I was doing with my kid, I was finishing that email, I was finishing that conversation. So notice what's not working, and then again, the same thing we just talked about. When it is working, why? Like, what are the things that I'm added up to it working that day? And some examples that I with clients that come up are for a lot of folks, it's carving out 45 minutes to an hour at the end of the day to download your brain, process those conversations, get your schedule lined up for the next day, etc. And just being able to kind of have that closure is super important. For some folks, it's recognizing if I have 3 back-to-back meetings, by the time I get to the end of my workday, I'm exhausted. And so it's looking at your calendar and making sure that you have appropriate amount of breaks between each meeting so that you can leave your workday with energy to give to your kids. Mm-hmm. As another example. And I'll give you one more. I have another client that noticed, wow, when I turn my phone off and I'm just monotasking, just doing one thing, focused on work, and I block out everything else, I just am able to get more done and I don't feel distracted. My brain's not going back and forth. And then I carve out 30 minutes, whether it's a day or a week, depending on what's going on, to work on family related stuff as needed. So the childcare coordination stuff, the birthday parties, all the things, right, that we manage as parents. Carving out time in your day or your week, wherever it is, to dedicate to that at a specific time.
Yeah. Okay. This is good. I'm finding myself in that moment, in that maybe this question is really for me, Jill. Because turning it off with so many things going on and running your own business and doing your own thing, it is difficult. And hopefully I speak for others that turning it off, whether you have kids or not, especially if you've got kids though, I know that when I do turn it off and I literally, my phone is turned away, it's put aside, and I'm literally just kind of sitting and hanging out with my boys or I'm going out in the back yesterday like I did, which I'm going to celebrate, but I hadn't been good at but I went and did his exercise. He's got to do soccer drills. So I went out and did the soccer drills with him.
Yeah.
It it makes a big difference. So you're giving me this exercise for me because I remember that's when it's working. Because his energy was nice. It was a fun exercise instead of a chore he had to do because I did it with him. Hard to do that when I know I have like 9 things on my list that I would like to get done as soon as possible, and it's picking them up at the end of the day is still my work day. So it's anyways, I love it.
Oh, well,
So
and
thank you.
what I would ask you then is when you think about your life and in this chapter of life, what is most important to you? Like, what do you really want in this chapter? And that's something that you can think about and think about. We can talk about another time. But the
Yeah.
reason I ask that is because what I notice with parents is if we get really clear on this chapter of life, whether it's 5 years, whether that's next 6 months because of things that are going on, if you're really clear in what you want, making decisions on how, whether to go outside and do those drills with your son or to go and work on your computer, it makes those little micro decisions early easier to make.
Yes. It's I want to
Tell me, what do you want?
I mean I want to raise 2 boys who are independent, strong, uh, I would hate to say goal seeking, but people who really want to have an impact in their lives. And that's maybe a big thought, but
No.
I don't have them for very long. We don't have them for very long. They're leaving, in the blink of an eye, they'll be gone. And so these moments added up over time will mean so much more than did I respond to that email on time. And so priority is the relationship I'm building and showing my boys what is it like to have a career but also prioritize family. Thanks for helping me kind of talk through that.
Yeah. So the next time that
You guys are all getting you're getting in
you're in real,
I'm getting a coaching session. I didn't know this was going to happen. This is so great, Jill.
but that's it's so clarifying when you're able to say in this moment, because as parents we're making these micro decisions all the time. Where do I, watch this movie with my kids, or do I pop up my laptop and work on that email? Do I go to this networking event, or do I do bedtime with my children? And so if you can keep, and that's again, I always think of it just like as a filter, like if you put glasses on, if I can keep for this chapter of my life and their life, what's most important at the forefront and then filter my decisions through that, then that really helps with making that decision. So I know I just said that, but just like that's just a really important tool to keep your priorities straight. And it takes the stress off a little bit because these aren't easy choices, but it's easier when you have a filter of your priorities.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah. Well, this is good. I do feel like I'm getting a bonus coaching for having you on. So thank you so much. But what's one piece of advice that you give your clients that sometimes surprises them?
Sure. What I said earlier around look at your life and what you want for your life, and then have your career fit into that is a big one. The other one that's I think surprises folks is how much career clarity and financial clarity are linked. And so I'll go into that in just a minute. Again, this is more on the career coaching side. Leadership coaching will be a little different. I mentioned this earlier, but what I noticed is that a lot of the decisions people make about their careers are linked to their relationship with their finances. And for most people, the relationship with your finances is fairly emotional. It's how much money you feel like you need to be making. And those feelings can be based on how you were raised, based on how much money you did or did not have when you were raised, based on expectations of society and what success looks like, and the cars and the pools, whatever it may be. And so I think the thing that surprises people is that I encourage them to work with a financial planner or wealth management person, whatever it may be, to get really objective about their money and bring that objectivity around actually to be in alignment and have enough for the life that I want, my retirement goals, my leisure goals, my home goals. I need to be making X amount of money each year. And again, just not move it from subjective to objective, and then we can work with that number. It's just the conversation becomes a lot more rooted in facts than feelings, which can be really helpful when trying to make a choice about your career.
Yeah. Certainly emotions can sometimes, heightened emotions can negatively impact decisions. And if you go from a more of a logical place and you're dealing with facts, that definitely appeals to the more rational side of your brain. I'm just thinking this in this moment, right? And
Right.
so I'm emotional, I'm stressed. How do I get to the rational or the logical side? And it could be because I'm pissed at my kids, or I'm frustrated with something that's not going well in work. Um, my spouse is demanding something of me that I don't have the energy for, and we can always go deeper on another call on this one, but
Yeah.
does something come to mind?
I think what comes up for me with everything you just shared is our emotions are signals of something deeper. So if you notice yourself frustrated or angry, rather than seeing that as a problem, you see that as data points and information. Okay, so I care a lot about this thing, which is why I'm getting upset. So it's likely either if it's something with a colleague, as an example, and you're really having a hard time working with them or how they're showing up, use that as a moment of self-reflection and self-awareness around what is it, what value are they stepping on. Mostly it ties back to our values and things we care about.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just encourage people is when you have these, I don't know, I probably need a different word for them, but if you have these moments of information from your being that something isn't resonating with you, get curious. And then that curiosity can actually going back to the iceberg model can actually help you understand what's really at play here and what's really upsetting you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
uh, we could talk a lot about this, but I'd love to kind of shift. You have, I noticed on your site, you have what's called a working parent roundtable,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we talked a little bit about community, but can you tell us a little bit more about this, and how did you come up with this idea to create this? Because so many professionals out there, really, the more and more we're remote, the more we're out in our own worlds, we're looking for community, right? In a
Yeah.
place where we can find like-minded people who share similar passions, challenges, and this is not just in the career world, but it's also personally too. Could you tell us a little bit about your, working parent roundtable and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a new idea I had, and it comes from wanting a place to gather people that's, again, going back to our normalization. So creating some normalization and offering some skill development. One of the most fun things about the last year of building my own business is that I have met and created so many colleagues, chosen colleagues, rather than within a corporation, you get told who your colleagues are, which is sometimes
Yes.
great. I mean, we were colleagues, right? And we're here. But when you're on your own, you get to choose who your colleagues are. And so I have a colleague, her name is Dr. Chloe Massey, and she's a parenting and child development expert. And as an example, her and I have some content that we want to deliver. And so just figuring out a mechanism or a structure, a supportive structure that will support us in delivering some of this content that we have. And so that's what it is. And that's the idea behind it is bring people together, share some skills. I get to bring some of my new colleagues in, which is really fun to share some ideas.
So they'll come into the roundtable, people who want to be part of it. So it's not only a community, but it's a community where you're going to provide, there's opportunities for coaching. So you've got people within the community, currently you and Chloe, I believe you said,
Dr.
will
Chloe.
be providing content and support, and maybe this kind of workshop style or teachings to the people in the community. And I imagine, I mean, I'm not going to put this in, it could be what you want, but I imagine there's going to be others that will be able to provide similar coaching to support the community as well. Come in. And so I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
it's in its infancy. It's just an idea at this point. I have it on there to see, who's interested, and but it's entrepreneurship, right? I see a need, and then you start to develop it and build it and see what comes of it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're talking about it. So people who are listening to this, you can reach out to Jill and be part of the Working Parent Roundtable. Um, so you mentioned PEPs a little earlier. I thought we'd just touch back. That's the program for early parent support. It's something that I was introduced to with my wife because she was a single parent for a short period until I joined the equation, and I was
Yeah.
able to participate in a lot of PEPs. Now, normally you said it's like an 8-week cohort, but surprisingly, her PEPs group have been together. Like their kids are 12 years old,
I know,
right? For
right?
12 years they've been connected, and that's not normal from what I understand. But for those who don't know what this is, can you share just a little bit about, maybe we explain what PEPs is and kind of what the purpose of it is?
So this is an nonprofit organization that's been around for 40 years, and to your point, they are all about bringing parents together and offering support. And so there are. It's funny that you say that about your wife because there are many people who have relationships with their PEPs group. My older brother is one of them, and their oldest is also 12, and they've continued to meet with their newborn PEPs group. So it's been 12 years of meeting, and I just think that speaks to the beauty of connection and life stage and support, and specifically the work that I've done with them. And again, I just closed my cohort with them is 8 weeks of facilitating sessions with working moms specific around career support, parenting partnerships, how to manage those. If you're experiencing microaggressions at work around being a parent, being a mother, managing those, the balance of again being an effective professional and effective parent. And so really really beautiful topics and really wonderful program.
That's great. Were
Yeah.
you a participant before,
I
or
had my first child, Memphis, while in Texas, and I was a part of a different, like, much smaller organization, but a version of this while in Texas because PEPS is only Washington based. And
I didn't
so,
know that.
yeah, and so they're not, yeah, they're only in Washington. And so, um, there's some other, yeah, some other states have similar organizations, similar programs, but no, I wasn't, but I know a lot about it from all my friends that have engaged in PEPs. And then I got introduced to PEPs from a friend of mine who's on the board of PEPs. So,
Yeah, yeah, okay. And well, I think it just this is kind of a theme, right? This comes back to community again, right?
yeah.
It seems to be a theme in our conversation so far, right? And what you've created for your career, right? And so, why would you say community is so important?
Oh, man. Oh, we're better together. We need each other. Um, I mean, that's my personal philosophy. When my husband and I, when we've made decisions all throughout our lives since being together, been our filter, like I talked about earlier, is around community. So we bought this home in this neighborhood because my younger brother is less than a mile down the street. We wanted our kids to have that sense of belonging and community. And we invest a lot in the community. I mean, I know there's a lot of science behind community building and connection and the well-being. It's just something that's really important to me. I also grew up with a really beautiful community. I had an amazing community as a child. I had a mother, and I also feel like I had seven other mothers just in my neighborhood. And so that I still see to this day, and it's just, yeah, there's just my nervous system, and I want my kids' nervous system to know that they have support, and it's bigger than just my husband and I.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We are stronger together. Yes, what a rising tide does lift all boats, and
All the people
all
say,
the
right?
cliches.
I know that's not everyone's number one priority or value is community, but it's mine from both my lived experience and then what I see, especially with my clients and how detrimental loneliness can be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and this is part of what I'm, hoping this can be as a community of people who, want to thrive professionally and personally. So I
Because
love
those are
this, and
not
this is,
separate, right? Those are the same.
yeah,
You go to work as the person that you are, and how stable and connected and full your other life is contributes to your work and how you show up for everyone.
yeah. I want people. And this is a friend of mine, Mike Whitell. I think you know him. Um, I want people to show up to work as exactly who they are when they're at, kind of at home personality. Like their personalities don't morph into this completely different person. And that's what I want a career to be. I want to be able to be who I am, my energy, and the same energy in my personal life. Obviously, focusing on career things, but anyways,
Yeah, I hear you.
so as we kind of shift and wrap, I can you are there any trainings that your programs that you're offering? You mentioned you doggone it. I think you mentioned career clarity as one of the programs.
One
Was
of
there
my programs, right?
one of the programs you have? Was there another one that you were currently off that you'd love to share a little bit about before we wrap up? Because I'd love for people who want to get to know more about you and maybe get involved that feel called, that you can
Yeah,
tell us a
for
little bit
sure.
about it.
Yeah, that is my one kind of marquee program for careers, the Career Clarity Program. I run it with so many individuals now. It's crisp and wonderful, and I love it. And I also am flexible in that if someone doesn't want, that whole program, and again, it's very custom. When I say whole, it's not overwhelming. It's just a whole, it is just a program. I pull
Yeah.
pieces from it from my other coaching. So I have some clients that say, I want to just meet with you as needed for X for an hour here, 30 minutes there, and I just work an hourly rate into whatever that is. Yeah, the other part of my work is I do work with businesses. So I have my business. So there's like the consumer facing business, which is more the career coaching stuff. And then there's the business to business, which is around consulting and coaching and facilitation. And we can talk more about that another time. But that's pulling from my experience as a revenue and sales leader, and then also in sales leadership development. So it's almost like, yeah, that's a whole
Yeah,
different.
two
Yeah, it's almost two
separate
separate businesses.
worlds and paths.
Yeah, but the foundationally very similar. Right? It's about building self-awareness and alignment and supporting whether the organization is you or it's an organization. It's there's a lot of overlap, but also distinct in some
Yeah,
ways.
yeah. That's good. How would someone reach out to you?
Well,
Like, I love this person.
hello.
I have to meet Jill. How do I do it?
Yeah, just hello at jillwicklund.com is my
Okay.
email address. There on my website, there's a contact me. If you can come, you can join the working parent roundtable if that feels better, more comfortable. I'm
And is
up for
that working roundtable? Is it for women only, or yeah, okay? Because I know that you do focus a lot, but not all your energy with working moms.
it's
But
just
okay,
that
good. That's good to
the
know.
data and the research shows that it's I don't want to say harder, that's not the right word, but it's more challenging for mothers
Yeah.
for a variety of reasons. But it's not to say that it's not challenging for non-mothers. Yeah, exactly, exactly, and that's why it's working parents and not working mothers.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
love that. Any last thoughts that you have as we prepare to wrap? Anything to come? And if it could be a joke, knock knock joke. It could be like any last thoughts you have to take us home.
I mean, my last thoughts. It's just been such a joy to share out loud my observations and research. And I guess if I were to say the last thing is one of the reasons I love this work is I get to help other people, but at the very same time, they're helping me. So when I get to hear their story, if I get to be a part of their solution, if I get to help them unpack a problem that feels really sticky, I get so much joy and satisfaction and love from that. And so I'm just really grateful for every client I have. And hopefully they feel that gratitude.
For sure. Well, I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much, Jill, for taking the time to share your wisdom, your expertise, and having just a great conversation.
Yeah, this was
I
really
feel
fun.
so much better after this. It was so great. I came into this call. I was like, okay, I had to do some breathing because there was a lot going on before, and I had to get myself in the right mindset because I knew Jill was going to bring it. And so thank you so much. Reach out to Jill, everyone. If you've got any questions and she can support you, I know she's willing to do that. And we'll see you at the next ACE show. I believe it's going to be coming up next week. And may all of you ace your life. We'll see you soon.
Bye.